This week on Dance of Joy, we learn about creative uses for belly button lint, we reminisce about television antennas, and we wonder why there's a house on top of a skyscraper. All that and more as we watch Season 2, Episode 20 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I am one of your hosts, and joining me is my big brother and my big co-host. What's up, Imran?
What's up, Sophia? You know, it was a very windy day here in Chicago, so I came prepared. I got a hard hat on. I got a safety vest. I'm strapped into my podcast desk because, of course, I podcast from my roof. It's the only place I have. And I don't
How
want to get
appropriate for
yeah.
today's discussion, which is on Season 2, Episode 20. What? It's so windy. I can't hear you.
Oh, my God. I'm going to get Bob hanging on there. All right, I'm strapped
Okay,
in.
we're watching Season 2, Episode 20 of Perfect Strangers, which is called Up on the Roof. What do we know about that phrase, up on the roof?
Of course, brings to mind a classic doo-wop song from the Drifters from 1962, Up on the Roof. Everybody's heard this, right?
Of course we've heard it, but let's hear it again
Let's
just
hear
to
a little
remind
bit
ourselves.
of the chorus here.
Let me tell you now, when I come home feeling tired and weak, I go up where the air is fresh and sweet. Up on the roof.
It makes me want to go to the sock hop.
I know, it reminds me of like My Girl or like Happy Days. I love that era of doo-wop songs though, right?
Love it.
Instantly puts you in the moment. If you were to open the TV guide this week and been like, hey, what's Perfect Strangers going to be about this week, Dad? Your dad would have said, well, son, Larry's found the perfect subject for the photo contest, but it needs to be shot from the roof of Twinkie's building, and he won't permit it.
Oh,
Of
no.
course he won't. How is he going to get this shot?
We'll find out. This episode, of course, as always, starring Bronson Pinchot and Marklyn Baker, and we also have Ernie Sabella
Love
in the
Ernie
role of
Sabella.
Twink Cassetti.
So great.
This episode aired on February 27th, 1987. Now, fun fact about this date, I pulled this date from the TV guide, aired February 27, 1987. This was a Friday, which was only 2 days after the previous episode, which we talked about last week.
What are we talking about?
Which aired on Wednesday, February 25th.
Okay, so all of this is going to make sense maybe in a little bit to the listener. The other weird thing about this episode is you will see there's many clues when we get into it that this episode was recorded earlier in the season and is airing out of order. What else is strange, Sophia? There's 2 episodes left. First of all, we are 2 episodes away from the end of Season 2.
Get out of the city!
I can't believe we made it. But
We made it.
the air date, this week in 1987, you would have gotten 2 brand new episodes of Perfect Strangers Wednesday and Friday. The next episode airs March 5th, 1987. And then the final episode's air date is April 1st, 1987.
You know, I wonder if there was like some big network
Something was
event
happening. It was either
and
sports,
they had to,
maybe the Olympics, but they realized, we have this episode that we have in the wrong place. We got to put it in there. And then there's a break. So it could have been a number of things. But as we go through it, we'll point out all the subtle hints that this was supposed to be shown a bunch of episodes ago, before a bunch of things.
Right. And the first thing to note is something we've already noted before. This is the episode in which Larry is trying to get the photo that he enters in Roger Morgan's photo contest, which we saw the end result of when he was invited to the gallery event in the episode Tux for Two.
Yes.
Which we already covered. So it's out of order. That's the first thing.
A few weeks ago, yes.
All right, let's get into it. Act 1 opens in the apartment. Balky is standing by the window, and he's got a canvas on an easel, and he's making some kind of art. We don't see what's on the canvas right away, but we hear him singing his own remade version of the Patty Duke theme song. Now, Patty Duke was another old show.
This is a show, I will admit, I did not really get into. It's from the 60s, early black and white. And, I remember just Patty Duke having the distinctive hairstyle. So he changes the words to the intro. Here is the real words to the Patty Duke intro.
Meet Kathy, who's lit most everywhere, from Zanzibar to Berkeley Square. But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights. What a crazy pair. But they're cousins, identical cousins.
That's what I remember.
Identical cousins. So the Patty Duke show
it was about
aired
cousins?
from 63 to 66. It was about two pretty identical cousins navigating high school and family.
So the cousins tie-in kind of works. It's the cousins.
Yes,
another show
it's about cousins. But Balky's version...
Yeah, how does that go?
So Balky's version goes like this. He makes it about him and Larry. And he says, while Larry doors the minuet, the Belarus and crepe Suzette. And then he starts doing this aggressive side-to-side sway dance when he speeds up the next line. And he sings, but Balky liked to rock and roll. The hot dog make him lose control. What a wild duet. Still they're cousins. And then right then, Larry comes into the front, enters the front door of the apartment. He's in a bad mood. He drops his camera and equipment, and he heads straight for the refrigerator to get his bottle of antacid.
That's how you know he's in a bad mood. He drinks that stuff like green juice.
Right. And so Balky's singing, still they're cousins. Larry comes in, and Balky cheerfully goes, hi, cousin.
Hi, cousin.
And then he keeps going, identical cousins.
And now Larry is wearing a pretty sharp leather bomber jacket from the 80s.
For that time,
Like it's one of those from the 80s. And
like
then
a poofy one, yeah.
And then he has his distinctive primary green shirt, sweater ensemble. So there's a couple of clues right away. My first clue that this is out of order is because of you, and I noticed that their hair... It's a little bit shorter. A little bit shorter, isn't it? When we see their hair get a little bit longer. So here's the second big clue that this episode is out of order. Balky goes, cousin, if you're hungry, there's some Ding Ding Mahmoud on the bottom shelf. And Larry goes, what's Ding Ding Mahmoud? Balky goes, pig snout with saffron. And Larry's like, no, thank you. I'm on a low saffron diet.
Which is so funny because he could have said it's not low pigs. It's not the pig snout.
The pig snout's not the problem. It's too much saffron. He's just looking for his
low saffron.
Now, we've already reviewed the episode Trouble in Paradise where they have the date where Balky makes Ding Ding, give me the Ding Ding Mahmoud.
Yeah.
Would Larry would have, no, give it to me. Larry would have known what it is then, but this seems like the first time he's brought up Ding Ding Mahmoud.
Yeah, in that episode, which was episode 14 of this season, if I recall correctly, Balky explained that it was pig snout with saffron to the girls, not to Larry. Larry already knew at that point. Back in this scene, Larry is like swigging from his bottle of Maalox or antacid, like whatever generic unlabeled antacid. It's just a white bottle.
No label.
And he comes over to where Balky's canvas easel thing, and he asks him what he's making, and Balky says it's a Meposian lint painting.
A lint painting?
Lint
Is that what I heard?
painting.
Lint painting.
Lint.
Okay, lint painting.
You know lint, the little fuzz that's all around your house.
Oh, I know lint.
And he says, on Mipos, we waste nothing. And then he tells Larry the origins of the Meposian lint painting tradition. And he says, interesting story. The first one was done by Brektos, our spiritual leader in the storybook days. And the legend says that he went up on the mountain for 60 days and 60 nights to contemplate his navel. And when he came down, he had a lint painting, which is such a silly line about.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we got this expression about like picking lint out of your navel.
Well, all lint comes from your belly button. Also,
Obviously,
it brings to mind images of like Moses or like the Prophet Muhammad going to the cave. But this dude, Brextos, stayed in the cave for a month and just stared at his belly button.
Well, that's also an American idiom, right? Like when you're sitting idle, just thinking thinking about stuff, they say you're contemplating your navel, like twiddling your thumbs.
Oh,
kind
they
of thing.
say that's a saying? Contemplate your navel?
That's what this joke is about.
I did
That's
not
what
know
this
that
joke
was a
is about.
saying.
So he's taking this
Literally.
American idiom idea about twiddling your thumbs, contemplating your navel, like mindless whatever.
Okay.
And putting it on into that story of meditation, like spiritual
because
meditation.
You stare at your belly button long enough, you're like,
yeah.
I think I'm going to use this lint and make some art with it.
That's what the joke is. And it's so silly.
It's so dumb.
When I
It's so
first
funny.
heard it, all I can think is like, who wrote this joke?
But
And
then
like, what?
And they show you the painting, and it's just a bunch of like lint and hair and rope like glued onto it. Yeah, it looks kind of disgusting.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of like droppings from around your house in various like structures on the page. And then so Balky asks Larry, how do you like it? And Larry's like, you can hang this under any rug in the world. And Balky takes it as a compliment. And he's like,
you don't mean that,
cousin. You don't mean that. And Larry's like, but I do.
Oh, I do. You can hang this under any rug in the world, Balky. But it's sweet because Balky tells Larry it's because of him that he got inspired to do something creative and get back into lint painting. He's been watching Larry taking photos for this photo contest, and Balky, it inspired him to do a lint painting. But Larry's not really digging the pictures he has. He goes, well, I'm glad one of us benefited from all my hard work.
Yeah.
Larry can't choose which photo to enter in the contest. He is his own worst critic. He's not happy with any of them. He has 106 photos and can't pick one. I can relate to this as an artist. We are our own worst critics. Everything you do is just, this is not good. Burn it. Yeah. He says that the Chicago Gazette photo contest is one of the most prestigious there is. Is it, Larry? Okay, I've never heard of it. But he goes, it was just a crazy dream. I thought if I won, my photojournalism career would have been launched. To which Balky goes, well, it would be nice if you were launched. He wants to launch Larry. Just launch him.
So here's the basic sort of conflict between the two of them for this whole episode. Balky doesn't understand because Balky idolizes Larry. He thinks all his work is great. And he doesn't get it because he's watched Larry take pictures for 3 months. And we know that he's taken 106 photographs to consider for this contest. And at this point, they're both sitting on the couch in front of the coffee table. And the coffee table is strewn with all these photos. And he says he's taken 106 and they all stink.
They all stink.
Larry's like, they're all garbage. They all stink. Balky's like, no, they're all very good. And Larry says, well, very, very good will not win the contest. So Larry's just like a grump right now and often. And once again, everything is super high stakes for Larry. Remember when he was on a date with Jennifer? It is the night that's going to change his life. So this is the contest that's going to change his life, right? Everything rides on this. Everything's super high stakes. And he says, I need that one special picture. I need something extraordinary, something that'll make the heart of man leap within him, something that sums up the meaning of life.
Oh, my Lord.
You know what I mean? And Balky says, Balky, very like quiet and emotional, says, well, of course I do. Don't be ridiculous. You need something a little different. That's what he understood.
So Larry's trying to find the meaning of life in one photo, Larry Appleton.
Yeah.
Just slow your roll there.
For one contest that will change his life.
For the Chicago Gazette.
His life depends on this one contest.
So Balky's like, there's a bunch of great photos here. He picks one up. He goes, what about this one of the kitty cat being carried away by the big bird? That's different. Larry doesn't like it. He goes, Balky, look at that kitty cat's face. What do you see? And then Balky like turns the picture upside down. I guess he was holding it upside down. And then he just goes, fear.
I feel like that turn upside down might have been improvised. Yes, so funny.
Larry goes, no, not fear. He goes, look, the cat has 3 whiskers on the left side of his face and 2 on the right.
There's no symmetry.
Oh, my God. You know what? Asymmetry is sometimes beautiful, too, Larry.
Larry is finding problems with everything. He's the contrarian throughout this whole episode.
And Balky's just like, okay. And then he picks up another one. He goes, what about this one of the fireman catching a baby that was thrown from the burning building? Larry just looks at him and goes, it's been done.
What? So many pictures of firemen catching babies thrown out of burning buildings. Larry then is like, how can you even help me? You probably don't even have photographers on Mypos. And Balky's like, well, we don't, but we have a guy named Nikolai who has a very good memory. Whenever we have a fire, Nikki's the first thing we say.
Nikki, can you imagine? Oh my God, the barn's on fire! Somebody grab Nikki!
Grab Nikki. And Larry still like barely even hears what he says because he's still wallowing in his own like self-pity. And he's like, it's a good thing because Nikki would have had a better chance than he would in the contest.
You know what else that reminds me of? Remember when he mentioned that they were going to throw him? It was like early in the season. He was like, they're going to throw me a parade and the town sketch artist will send me a drawing. Yeah. So they have one guy that remembers
Maybe that's
things,
Nikolai, yeah.
and another guy that just draws things because they have no cameras.
So Balky now is getting frustrated with Larry and he just doesn't understand. And he says, you had the crazy dream and you spent 3 months taking pictures and now with only 1 day left, you're just going to roll over and die? And Larry's like, that's basically what I had in mind, yes.
What a defeatist.
So
Balky then
defeatist.
starts to tell Larry a story about an immigrant boy who had a crazy dream to come to America, and he got on the tramp steamer. And
Tramp.
Then he says tramp. And this is in the first episode, right? He talks about the tramp
pilot.
steamer.
Do you remember what this is calling back to? So in the pilot episode,
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay, so Balky shows up in the pilot episode, and he's like, my cousin. And then he tells the story about his whole journey. He's like, first I got on the tramp steamer.
And then bus.
Tramp.
Yeah.
Then I got on the bus.
That's right.
So this is a callback to that pilot, the tramp steamer, or the beginning of that story.
Oh, that's right. Now I remember. But Larry, before you continue, Larry interrupts him. He goes, no, you know what? I heard this story and it's not going to help. He goes, I'm feeling sorry for myself, Balky, and if you were a true friend, you would feel sorry for me too. You join in. And Balky's like, okay, poor little Larry Appleton. He could have been a great photographer, but he'll never know now because he gave up. And at this point, they're in the kitchen by the fridge, and Balky walks back to his easel canvas. And Larry just looks up at him and goes, I hate it when you do this. Because he's putting on the guilt trip. And Balky tells Larry to remember that his friend Balky wanted him to keep trying, but he didn't. And Larry's like, can't you just let me accept failure? Balky goes, over my dead battery.
He means dead body, but batteries also die, which is a good mix-up. So Larry's like, okay, fine, I'll try to find a new shot in 1 day. And Balky says, now you're talking turkey. What is this expression that he's mixing up?
This is a great one because technically he got all the words right. The comma throws it off. The expression is talking turkey. We're talking turkey. And instead, he calls him a turkey. He goes, now you're talking turkey. It just means we're talking shop. We're talking, now you're getting it. It's similar to an expression my illustration teacher in art school used to have all these crazy sayings, and we never knew what he was talking about. Like, we put up an illustration, and he'd be like, okay, you're almost there. You're in the fridge, and you're reaching around, but you haven't grabbed the mayonnaise yet. I'm like, what? Okay. What? What's that mean? And he would just come up.
That sounds like bosses in these government offices I've worked in.
He would come. He would have all these bizarre metaphors. None of us knew what he was. He was like, just do it over. I don't know what he's talking
about. Mayonnaise. All right. Okay, so Balky says, now you're talking turkey. Okay.
Then Balky is excited, and he goes, now we are so happy we do the dance of joy. And Balky starts the dance, but Larry stops. He doesn't join, and he goes, well, at least let me find the picture first. And Larry grabs his camera, starts to leave. Balky says, I know you're going to find the perfect picture, cousin. Larry goes, yeah, and pigs can fly. Balky goes, that would make a great picture. As Larry exits, I want to mention one thing. There's a very interesting shot in this scene where when Balky walks away from Larry to his easel, the shot is Balky and the easel in the foreground, and Larry is way in the background in the kitchen, kind of out of focus, and they're having a conversation.
So it's a scene with two of them in different places, which we've not seen before.
And I noticed this right away because this is not a typical multi-camera sitcom setup at all. Nobody did this. You're either on the same plane, your blocking is all on the same plane.
Yeah, and when your blocking is together on the same plane, you're in real life, you can tell if you look carefully, you're standing very close to each other. Every scene we've ever seen the two of them in, they're very close to each other.
Because the camera it kind of exaggerates that. Like you don't look as close as you. Because I've done student films where I'm right up to someone, and then I see the shot, and it looks like there's a huge space between. I was like, whoa, that's wild. How did that happen? But, normally he would have walked up and stood next to him, but he stays back there and continues the conversation.
It's very strange. I wonder why they did that. If anyone knows or has read anything about it.
The whole show is about being kind of artsy and creative, right? I feel like they just made an artsy shot. They're like, let's do this. It's different. Why not?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was super interesting. I did notice that. It was this whole first scene.
And Larry is out of focus. He's in soft focus delivering lines. I was like, wow, that's weird.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. We move on to the next scene, and now we're in Ritz Discount.
Hey, Ritz.
And Larry's at the counter working, and now he's dressed in a solid blue collared shirt with sweater combo. Solid primary colors is Larry's wardrobe.
Yep.
In this whole, at least in this season up to now. Maybe it changes later on, but so far we've seen him in solid primary colors, while Balky is the one wearing patterns. Larry's at the counter, and Marianne walks in saying she got their mail again, and she hands Larry the mail. And she says, it's an easy mistake. I'm in 302, you're in 203. Perhaps the mailman has lysdexia. Which is another, corny, easy gag. Yeah. And Larry says, that's dyslexia. And Marianne just thinks about it for a moment. She goes, is that it? I always get that word turned around.
Of course.
Such a corny dyslexia joke.
Lysdexia. I love it, though.
Also, probably a joke that we wouldn't see in modern sitcoms because it's a little bit punch downy.
Yeah, you can't really do that.
On a legitimate condition.
Correct.
It is like a corny joke that's out there, but I don't think we would see it anymore.
However, I bet this mention of dyslexia made people go, wait, what is this? Is this? And then maybe some 86, people, in 87, and then some people may have been like, I think I have this. Thanks, perfect strangers.
Well, I heard about it from Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show.
That's right.
As a legitimate, learning disability.
He had a learning disability. That's right.
Dyslexia.
Theo, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Sorry. That's a different show, different podcast.
Different podcast.
Great scene, though. I love that episode.
My
God. Theo, an earring. Anyway, let's get back to this.
That's my favorite line of the whole series.
That's a different show.
Anyway, focus, Javed. Focus. So then Marianne asks Larry, I don't know, I think her whole presence is to move the story around, move the story along and have this silly joke about dyslexia, which wouldn't fly today. Anyway, she asks Larry if he's sent in the picture for the photo contest yet, and Larry says, I haven't yet, but I found the perfect shot, and I'm going to take it this afternoon. And then he starts to get excited, and he starts to Larry-splain the shot, but to Marianne, but this time with excitement, not with pedanticness. Yeah, not with disdain. He says he has this whole little pre-planned speech almost.
Yeah,
he says it's a little church with a cross on the steeple, but that's not the shot. I am so proud of myself. There's not a photographer in a million who would ever have seen this shot. At exactly 6:02, the setting sun drops between these two big buildings, and a shaft of light hits the cross, turning it this brilliant gold, and it glows like something supernatural. It only lasts for a second, and then it's gone. It's beautiful. And he's on this whole excited rant, and Marianne just goes, yeah, churches are nice. See ya. Walks away.
Nobody cares about Larry's career or his ideas or his excitement. It's so sad.
So one quick note here is at this point in the series, it has been and was unusual to see Jennifer or Marianne on the show as individuals. Usually they're together. They're always together. But In this episode, we see only Marianne.
I was waiting for Jennifer to like walk in right behind her or something. Doesn't happen.
No, maybe she was sick or busy, or they just needed someone to deliver.
Yes, they need one person to do the dyslexia joke. That's it.
Well, I think the dyslexia joke was like an extra thing thrown in to give.
Well, yeah. You had to get to the church shot.
It was for Larry to deliver that description.
Balky enters excitedly as Marianne leaves, and he tells Larry he's sorry that he's late, but he was late because Mrs. Twinkasetti asked him to move some furniture in her house, and he goes, and behind the dresser I found a gold mine and dust balls, and he has a pouch that he squeezes and dust flies out into Larry's face. But Larry is excited still, and he tells Balky, forget the dust. He tells him that he found the photo for the contest, and then he launches into the exact same speech that he gave Marianne. He goes, it's a little church with a cross on the steeple, but that's not the shot. And I am, and he does it word for word. I am so proud of myself. There's not a photographer, blah, blah, blah. But before he can finish, Balky goes, wait a minute. This isn't the little church where the setting sun falls between the two tall buildings and casts a shaft of light on the cross that makes it glow a brilliant gold as if it had taken on a life of its own, is it? And Larry's like, well, it's the angle that's important.
So funny. He says the exact same lines.
And then he's like, what I'm going to have to do is, Balky interrupts him again, you're going to have to get on the roof of the building across the street. Larry's like, the address is, Balky finishes 2831 Garfield. Larry's like, can I tell this? Balky goes, oh, well, I wish you would.
Which is like a fun little gag exchange and not something we've seen before in this way on this show. So I thought that was nice and refreshing.
They're both on the same page, though. You know?
Yeah, they're both on the same page. They know the shot.
They're finishing each other's sandwiches.
Yeah. So sandwiches. So Larry's like, I have to get the shot this afternoon. I have to get the owner's permission. And Balky tells Balky he's going to have to help him get all his equipment to the top of the roof. And Larry now is like full of renewed confidence that he's going to win this contest. And he tells Balky, I'm on my way to the good life. And Balky goes, what means the good life? And Larry says, it means the good life.
It means the good life. Good life.
Which is a non-explanation altogether. But even so, Balky goes, wow, I'm so happy for you. Now we can do the dance of joy. And this time Larry agrees, and they right there in Ritz Discount, they do the dance of joy. And as they're dancing of joy, Twinkasetti walks out of his office and heads to the cash register. And as they're finishing the dance on their last hey, Twinkasetti also says, hey, Fred and Ginger, front and center. Which, of course, is a reference to Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, the dancers.
Because they're dancing. Twinkle toes. Because they're doing twinkle toes. So the cousins go to the cash register. As Twinkle said, he's counting out some money out of the register. And he explains that he's taking the rest of the day off to be with his lovely wife and lovely children and his less than lovely mother-in-laws. Twink tells Larry he wants him to call his wife and tell her the store is on fire so Twinkasetti can leave his family and spend the rest of the weekend playing poker. Larry goes, I can't lie to your wife, Mr. Twinkasetti. Twinkasetti's like, right, I've used that excuse before. How about you just tell her the turnip locked himself in the safe? Who wouldn't believe that? Twink says. Larry refuses again, and I love this line. Twink said he's just like, oh, what is it, Appleton? Make something up. But so here's another clue that this episode is out of order because, remember, he was lying to his wife early, and they already went through the whole want to get a divorce and reconciliation, and they're all good. So, like, this is still when their relationship was not good.
Yeah, that's true. Larry stops him again. Twinkasetti says, make something up. Larry's trying to tell him a thing. But before he goes, Balky tries to interrupt, and he's like, Cousin Larry, and try to warn him about something. But Larry, of course, stops him because he's Larry. He's like, not now, Balky. And then he tells Twinkasetti that he will not lie to his wife for him. And Twinkasetti's like, very calmly, he goes, Appleton, one day you will want something from me, and no matter how small that something is, my response will be a well-known gesture. My.
What gesture could that be?
I don't know. This is a family-friendly show.
I know. I have a few in mind, but wow.
It's not going to be a thumbs up.
No, it's not.
So Twinkasetti leaves, and then Balky tells Larry that the building he wants to get on top of to take the photograph is Mr. Twinkasetti's house.
Oh, boy.
And so Larry starts sobbing and crying, and Balky's like, oh, don't cry. And then he immediately stops and he goes, all right.
I love that.
And then Balky's like, oh my God, that was amazing. You know, you're bouncing back better all the time. And he says, Balky, you and I are going to get on that roof and we're going to get that picture even if it kills us. And then Balky looks happy for like a second and then he's like, wait a minute. and we have end of Act 1.
Listener, if you enjoy Perfect Strangers and you enjoy this podcast and you want to show the world, get some merch. We have podcast merch at our website. Visit danceofjoypod.com/shop where you can get hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, notebooks, pillows with the lovely silhouette of Balky and Larry doing the Dance of Joy in our logo. I got a shout out. I don't know if you saw this, Sophia. Rainey. We're going to hear from Rainey later. She's back later this episode, but she posted on her Instagram a picture of a Dance of Joy tank top.
Get out of the city!
That she bought.
It looks
and
super cool.
It looks great. The tank top looks great. So
we're going to have to repost that on the Dance of Joy Instagram later this evening.
That's your job.
I will. I'm on it. On it. I'm also in it. I am currently wearing my very comfortable Dance of Joy hoodie sweatshirt.
They are comfy. Rainey, thank you so much for buying that and wearing it and posting a photo. danceofjoypod.com/shop to get your own. Let's get into Act 2, which begins on top of Twinkasetti's house, and it's super windy. Okay. So this is an interesting set piece here. Let's just pause for a moment. It cuts to, you see a top of a house and you see a chimney.
The opening shot of Act 2 is a long shot of the external. It'll zoom in for the rest of the scene, but the opening shot is a long shot.
So there is a little bit of sloppiness. I don't know what you would call. Did you notice this? It's hard not to notice this.
It's hard not to notice it because of the red mat in the front of the house.
The wide shot of the top of this house, you can clearly see over on the left, there is a gym mat, a red gym mat just under the roof in case they fall. Yeah. And then on the other side, you just see where the house stops and there's the concrete floor.
It's pretty clear. I wonder how that got done.
But they cut back to the shot a couple of times. Somebody must have been like, you know what? Nobody's going to notice. It's fine. So this is clearly like on a soundstage, but I think it's still outside.
No,
or is it
I don't know.
A giant warehouse soundstage?
I think it's probably inside, but I don't know. I haven't been on that many sets.
Well, because they have outdoor sets
I don't
and indoor
think they
sets.
come back to this shot. I think it's just at the beginning of Act 2.
No, you see the red mat a couple of times. I've seen that red mat a couple of times.
But it's very clear right at the beginning of Act 2 in this wide shot. But then it quickly goes to a closer shot, which is the top of this roof. And it's windy. You see like trees moving around. And then you see a ladder suddenly like get propped up to the behind the roof, right? From where the angle is. And then we see Larry scrambling up the side of this A-frame roof. And he gets to the top. And Balky, like from behind him, hands up the tripod. And he's like, can you give me a hand? And Larry just ignores him because he's so determined and selfish that he's only focused on like getting his picture. So Larry like takes his stuff and moves off to sort of the side of the roof. And we see Balky just like pulling himself up, climbing onto this roof, hoisting himself over the A-frame. While Larry's on the other end of the roof, like starting to set up already. And Balky's nervous here. He's like, I don't like this. We're not supposed to break into somebody's house. And Larry's like, we're not breaking into Twinkie's house. We're breaking onto his house. And he's like, Twinkasetti isn't even home. And he looks at his watch. He's like, we're going to be out of here in 5 minutes. Don't worry about it. And then Balky's like, it's pretty far down. And Larry's like, it's only 2 stories. And then Balky's like, the roof is pretty steep. Balky's like so worried and pointing out all these very legitimate concerns.
And he's pressed himself down, and it's super windy and blowing. And let's remember what he just said. Only 2 stories, okay?
Yes,
remember that.
Yes, pin that.
Yes.
And Larry just ignores all his concerns and he's like fuddling with his camera. And then he drops the lens cap and it rolls down the side of the roof. And he's like, Balky, can you get that? And Balky's like, I don't think so. He just watches it fall. He's like, I don't think so.
It's gone. But at this point, Larry has set up his tripod on top of the roof, and he threw his bag over there.
And Balky is like a little bit impressed and bewildered by Larry's like sudden confidence and determination. And he's like, wait a minute, you're the one who's afraid of heights. And Larry's like, well, I have to get this picture and my whole future depends on it. Just like his date with Jennifer. It has to be perfect. Anyway, he says, nothing's going to stop me. There are no obstacles. Absolutely nothing can go wrong. And then Balky's like, it's getting pretty windy.
That's just like the theme song. Nothing's going to stop me now. Standing tall.
That's the Larry's half of the theme song. Yeah.
It's getting super windy up there, and Larry tells Balky in his camera bag he has everything he needs for a photographic emergency. Don't worry. He puts his camera around Balky's neck. He's like, here, hold this. And he pulls out sandbags to hold the tripod down. As he's doing this, Balky's like reaching for the sandbags, and he doesn't give it to him. Larry's like, we can't have the tripod blowing off the roof, off the wind now, can we? Balky goes, what about me blowing off the roof? Yeah. As he's straddling the top of the roof, holding on for dear life, Larry goes, you're not a photographic emergency. Balky goes, I'm human. Larry goes, that's not good enough. Larry goes, look, we'll be done in 2 minutes. And he's finished setting up the tripod, and he goes to Balky. He goes, Balky, give me my camera.
And then Balky takes the camera off from around his neck, and he just looks at it, and he has like a moment of realization. He's like, I have the camera in my hand. And,
just like the Dolly Parton incident. Remember, he grabbed the camera. He wouldn't give it to him.
Yeah, and then he doesn't give it to Larry, and Larry asks for it again, and Balky says, no, I have the camera, and I say we get off the roof.
Boy.
Balky's like, we're going to die up here. We have to go. And they both get up on their feet, and they're like facing off toward each other with some distance, but like straddling sort of the point of the A-frame roof. And Larry's insisting that Balky gives him the camera, and Balky goes, And then they do this little coordinated dance, almost like a dance. It's a bit of rooftop physical comedy. They take synchronized steps where when Larry takes one step forward and Balky takes one step back, both of them balancing in the wind on this rooftop. And they take a few steps that way. And finally, Larry tries to distract Balky by pointing off to the distance. And he goes, oh, look, there's the Wicked Witch of the West. And Balky turns to look, and Larry lunges forward, and he snags the camera. And then he does this like Newsies kind of like he grabs this pole coming off the top of the roof and like, oh, you know, it reminded me of like Mary Poppins, like the chimney sweep dancing around on the roof. Yeah.
I thought it was like a ninja move. I was like, this is some kind of gymnastics ninja
like
move.
Like a chimney sweep ninja move on a rooftop, and he swings around this pole. But I was a little worried because I thought that pole was a little flimsy.
Yeah. Oh, and held his weight too, yeah.
He swings around to where he was on the other side of the roof, and he goes, ha-ha! And he has the camera in his hand, and he's gotten it. And then Balky says, you tricked Balky. There was no witch. And just a quick note here about this reference to the Wicked Witch of the West. Apparently, Bronson Pinchot is a major Wizard of Oz fan.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
A collector.
Oh.
So it seems that references to Wizard of Oz are going to be a little bit common as we go through the series.
I wonder what his best pieces in his Wizard of Oz collection. Larry is determined. He says there's no way he's getting off that roof until he's taken that picture. He said he's taken the shot 1,000,000 times in his head. He's planned every minute detail. He positions the camera and then suddenly realizes there's a chimney in the way. What? He goes, where'd that chimney come from? Balky goes, I bet it came with the house. And laughs at his own joke. Larry goes, what idiot architect will put a chimney where it blocks the view of the beautiful church? Where have all the good craftsmen gone? Balky goes, maybe they were all blown off the roof as the wind kicks up and blows them around.
Oh, boy. And Balky now thinks Larry has lost his mind. In fact, he thinks Larry has flipped his coin. That's what he says. You have flipped your coin. And he tells him, you have plenty of good pictures at home. And Larry's like, no, he's still determined to get this particular shot. He takes the camera off the tripod and he has another idea. He's like, I'm going to get on top of the chimney to get the shot. And he starts to scramble up this chimney, tries to climb up it, and Balky starts to follow Larry toward the chimney to try to stop him, but then he slips and does this tumble slide down the side of the roof. It's a little gasp worthy. But he manages to hang on. He manages to stop himself and hang on to an A-frame over the window and stops himself from falling. And just then he hears a telephone ringing, as do we, from inside the house.
It would have been fine. There's a red gym mat there. It would have broke its fall.
Yeah. Okay. We hear this telephone ringing from inside the house. And then we see Balky lean his head down over the side of the house to presumably look inside this window. Then we see a shot from the outside looking into this attic base window. And then we see a shadow of Balky's head come down in front of the window, he's looking in. So he looks in, and what he sees is Twinkasetti answering the phone, and he can hear him from outside saying, yeah, I can make the card game after all. I told my wife the turnip got locked in the safe. She bought it. Who wouldn't? See you at 8.
And then Balky pulls back after this, and it's clearly a different building, a different window. You don't see the window where it was there, and even if he did lean over, he would have fell off the whole house.
The window is way too far down.
It's
you can't peer over the side.
It's perfectly cartoony with his head.
Yeah.
Coming in the back of his head, eavesdropping Twinkasetti's phone call.
A lot of cartoony moments.
Oh, it's super cartoony. And now we get to the physical comedy as Larry is clinging to the edge of the chimney, scrambling, going, help, help, help. Balky's quiet. Mr. Twinkasetti's home. Larry goes, help, help, help. Says a kind of. Balky helps Larry back down onto the roof and says they have to get off before Mr. Twinkasetti catches them. But Larry says, I still have 50 seconds to get the picture. He edges himself around the chimney, and there's an antenna there. And he's like
a television antenna, yes.
Which people don't even have these anymore.
Yeah, we might have to explain what a television antenna is.
That nobody has television antennas anymore. It's a metal
pole on the roof of your house that gets you the signal for the television in the old analog television.
Because, dear listener, TV used to transfer through the air. Yes, figure that out. It was in the air, and you just needed an antenna. It was not digital. Anyways, there's no digital. There's no cable. It's in the air.
Yeah.
Anyways, Larry's I'm going to grab onto this antenna and lean past the chimney. I can still get this shot. Bucky goes, that picture of the kitty cat's looking better all the time. But once again, Larry is about to put both of their lives at risk, just like he did in the ski incident. So anyways, Larry is holding the antenna, leaning over the roof with the camera up. And then the antenna starts to bend, and Larry's I'm experiencing a weird optical illusion. The church is getting closer and closer. Balky goes, the antenna is bending. How does he say it? He said
antenna is bending.
He said antenna really weird. He goes, the antenna is bending. Tells Larry to come back. Larry goes, it's gonna hold for 5 more seconds. He counts down. He goes 3, 2, 1, and just as he goes to 1, it cuts to the sky, and you see cloud cover over the sun.
Yeah, black.
And then
black
it cuts
clouds.
back, and then everything gets dark and overcast. Cuts back to Larry. Larry goes, -1, -2. Where there's no shaft of light on the church. Where is the sun? Balky tells Larry to calm down and get back on the roof. And his shot is blown because it's Chicago. Listen, the only accurate thing in this episode is the wind. That's every day. And the weather. Just wait 10 minutes. It snowed yesterday. Last week it was 70 degrees.
Yeah.
Yesterday it snowed slightly.
Yep.
In
Lousy
April.
March weather.
Lousy smart. Don't touch Willie. Good advice.
So Larry is still leaning off of this roof, holding on to this bendy television antenna, and Balky's pleading with him to come back, lean back toward the roof. And Larry's still leaning out, and he's just lamenting the weather report that said it would be sunny. He was like, what? And he's like, I didn't get my shot. And then he's leaning over, just standing there, complaining. And then Balky goes, cousin, just to get an idea of where you are, you might look down. And he looks down, and we see this very high level view of the street.
Okay, hold on a minute.
It was supposed to be 2 stories. He said 2 stories earlier.
Apparently, Twinkasetti's house is on top of a skyscraper.
Yeah, it looks like it's on top of a skyscraper.
He's 10, 20 20 stories up. That's not
but
2 stories.
but the scene is an A-frame roof of like a regular.
Also, is this
low
house
to
in the
ground.
middle of like downtown Chicago?
Yeah,
What's going on?
None of this makes sense.
This is probably Los Angeles anyways. I don't know.
Yeah. And he looks down and he realizes from what we see that he's precariously high above the street and he's dangling. And then he's like, ah, and screams. And then he pulls himself back onto the roof. Balky helps him get back onto the roof. And then Balky's like, we have to get off of here. And then suddenly Larry is panicked and suddenly remembers that he's afraid of heights. And Balky's like, okay, great time to remember that. How about this? We'll wait until dark. So then you won't see how far down it is. And then
Solid
Larry's
plan.
like, but I'm afraid of the dark.
Don't.
So then they sort of like slide down into a sitting position to like wait it out near the chimney. And they're sitting on this roof near the chimney.
This is another fine mess you've got me into. Just like, what was it, Abbott and Costello? Yeah.
Yep.
No, or is that Abbott and Costello? Yeah.
Well, it's like every buddy comedy. One gets them into trouble. The other one gets them
No,
out of it.
Laurel and Hardy is the line. He always goes, this is another fine mess you've got me into. So it cuts to later in the evening. It's dark now, still windy. Balky and Larry are still on the roof. Balky tells Larry, open your eyes and let's just get off the roof. Larry, of course, is super mad that he didn't get his picture. He goes, this is all Twinkasetti's fault. Right on cue, Twinkasetti climbs up on the roof and yells at them, what are you doing here? And then Larry goes, Mr. Twinkasetti, this is all my fault.
First it's Twinkasetti's.
Twink goes, cry me a river. He goes, okay. He starts
I love how he is like one moment he's like
Yes.
indignant. He's
Yeah.
like, this is
It's
all
all
Twinkasetti's fault. And then Twinkasetti shows up and he goes, this is all my fault. And then, so Larry's crying. And then all of a sudden the wind knocks down the ladder
no.
and the ladder falls down.
Of course
and
it
Twinkasetti
does.
is livid. Now he's stuck up there too. And he's like, this is all your fault to Larry. And Larry suddenly decides to fight back. And he goes, my fault? You wouldn't be up here if you were with your wife and kids like you're supposed to be. And then Twinkasetti argues right back. They're having a little fight on top of this roof. He says, I wouldn't have come up here if you weren't playing Tarzan on my antenna. And then Larry says, well, I wouldn't have had to if you'd put your chimney on the right side of your house where it belongs. And Twinkasetti goes, I'm going to put my fist where it belongs. And then we have yet another little round of rooftop physical comedy.
This is the best physical. RPC is great.
RPC. Larry like lunges at Twinkasetti. I don't know what he thinks he's going to do, but he's like heads
Throw him
toward
off.
him to
Yeah.
like get into fisticuffs or something on this windy rooftop. And they start to like grapple a little bit and Balky tries to break them up and he gets in between them, but then he slips. He slips and slides down the like downstage side of the roof again. And Twinkasetti grabs Balky's right arm and Larry grabs Balky's left arm. And then they sort of like swing down toward the edge of the roof, but they I don't know, they kind of like
Balky in the
climb back
middle.
up and
Yeah.
pull him back up in between them, and they all sit right there on the top of the roof.
Balky says they have to stop fighting and find a way to get off the roof. Then he just starts yelling, help!
Yeah, Larry goes, what'd you have in mind? And then he goes, help, help.
Larry
off the
says,
top.
save his voice. No one can hear you. Everybody's windows are closed. Because why? Balky goes, because it's starting to freeze. And then Larry goes, what else could possibly go wrong? Of course, right on cue, thunder, lightning, rain. Larry goes, it was a rhetorical question.
But my favorite part about this scene is the timing, right? He
Yeah.
says, what else can possibly go wrong? Then we hear thunder, lightning, and then like a downpour. And then they let it sit for like a long time. They're just in the water. I don't know if it's fake rain, obviously, but the three of them are just there getting rained on for like a good...
So there's a lot of water coming down. So I think this is like maybe a giant warehouse soundstage that has water rigging above. But it could be also outside soundstage. They have pipes they bring out that put rain when you're outside. Because part of it looks like daylight with lights on them.
Yeah.
And in one shot, in the daylight behind Balky, you can see like another like warehouse soundstage, the roof of it behind them. But they're getting drenched.
But the point is like the timing of this last line, like whereas everything else, usually in the dialogue, is like so quick and
Yeah.
quippy. He
They let
says,
it
what else
sit,
can possibly go wrong? Then they're there getting wet for like a long time before he finally goes, it was a rhetorical question.
And then I love this Twink Cassetti line. They're sitting there getting drenched, and Twink is like, I'm going to throw the turnip off the roof. If we're lucky, he'll drag himself to get help. If we're unlucky, we're still lucky.
He's so mean, even when he's in this like life-threatening situation.
As
with these guys.
mean and tough as he is, we find out that Twink Cassetti is afraid of thunder. As thunder comes in, he goes, oh, and he grabs Belky and cowers. He goes, I never told you I hate thunder. And he clings to Belky's arm in fear. And then suddenly Larry notices something. He goes, there's something aesthetically pleasing about your face when you're terrified. And brings up his camera in the rain, starts taking pictures of Twink Cassetti, who is clutching Belky's arm and whimpering and calling out for us. He's like, I want Edwina. Where's Edwina?
And just then there's another flash of lightning, and Larry is getting more and more excited. They're still getting drenched and poured on. It's dark now, but there's another flash of lightning. Larry is excited, and he says he thinks he's captured Twink Cassetti's face framed by lightning.
Ooh.
And he goes to Twink Cassetti. He's like, hold that whimper.
Yes, that's great. Hold that.
And then another streak of lightning suddenly shoots out of the sky and hits. There's another pole next to where Larry's sitting on the opposite.
Now, that's the one he swung on.
Is it the same one?
That's the one. There's only one pole there.
So
in the
hits
antenna.
that pole, and the pole just like falls, like dislodges and falls down to the roof, and Twink Cassetti screams, and Larry's about to go. He's like, is this another TV thing?
Yeah,
and
he's going to touch it.
And then he's about to go touch it, and then Twink Cassetti tells him it's a lightning rod, and it's a real good one, too. And then Larry, like, screams and backs up, and he's like, if we stay up here, we will die. And so they're like, we have to get off. They all get up on their feet, and they all start screaming for help in the night, in the rain. Who even knows how they got hurt?
And then it cuts to commercial. Are they going to get off the roof? We'll find out momentarily. Before we do, listener. If you want to support the show, if you want to show your love, help out with some of the ongoing website hosting and media files costs associated.
If you wonder where the siblings Imran and Sophia get all this joyful energy every week, it's from coffee.
Yes, and you can buy us a coffee. Visit our website, danceofjoypod.com/support. Click the Buy Me a Coffee button to leave us a tip, a one-time tip or an ongoing monthly love tip, whatever you want. We would appreciate it, and it keeps us caffeinated, which is very important.
Very important.
To get through. We're only at the end of season 2. We got 5 more seasons. We need lots of caffeine. danceofjoypod.com/support. Show your love. Act 3, Sophia.
Act 3. We're back at the apartment. It's a few days later. And Belky and Larry are having a nice breakfast, are sitting at the table having breakfast. Larry now, I should mention, is still in primary colors. This time it's red. By the way, green is not a primary color from earlier in the show.
No, but he's hit RGB. Maybe they do this on purpose. These are the TV tube colors. He has a full RGB this episode.
Yeah, those are the colors, not a primary. Anyway,
Not primary.
This time it's a solid bright red shirt and sweater combo.
RGB. He's done red, green, blue in one episode. Amazing.
And Balky is looking at the newspaper and he's reading with pride. Larry Appleton, 10th place.
See, we knew he won 10th place already. It ruins all of any of the surprise here.
But in 1987, we might not have remembered it because that was about 7 weeks prior. Not 7
it was like 4 episodes before. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
So Belky's very excited and proud. He's like, Larry Appleton, 10th place. But Larry is still a bit scoffy. He scoffs and he's like, yeah, I'm so good. I even helped someone else win first prize. And then Belky says, it was very nice of someone to take that picture of the fireman rescuing us from the roof.
I love this because it tells you 2 things. I was like, how'd they get off the roof? That's how they got off the roof. And you know what picture won the contest, right?
And it sort of like underscores Larry's doubts from earlier about a picture of a fireman saving a baby from a burning building not being good enough.
And then the next line is great. It's Larry being a typical artist. We all do this. Larry looks at the photo. He goes, "It's a terrific picture if you call that composition." We all
so he's
do
critical
this.
of the first place photo.
It's a pretty good drawing, I suppose.
So Balky reassures Larry. He's like, "It's wonderful that you won 10th place." And Larry thanks Balky for making him keep trying and for helping him get the picture. And Balky goes, "And for saving your life."
Not the first time.
And Larry's like, "Yeah, that too."
Yeah.
And Balky says, "Well, I couldn't let you quit or die. And if you ever see me giving up, you also should stop me too. That's what friends do for each other."
Balky suggests they go down to Curly's newsstand, buy every newspaper he has to send to everyone Larry knows. Larry says he doesn't need to brag. Balky insists it's a great accomplishment. Larry should be proud. Larry goes, "The important thing is that I know." Balky goes, "Wow, you're some humble guy."
And so I think this whole thing, there's no like clear lesson time in this act. There was no music, and there's actually no like real lessons either.
Just don't go on the roof.
I think that this is the lesson time coming up. Balky is super impressed with his accomplishment. Larry tells him that most of it was blind luck. And by the way, he still didn't get the picture that he was trying to get.
That's true.
And Balky goes, "Yeah, but if you hadn't risked your life and mine trying to get the picture," that's like the third reminder of we almost died and I
killed me.
Balky says, "If you hadn't risked your life and mine trying to get the picture of the church, you never would have gotten this picture of Mr. Twinkasetti framed by lightning." So now we find out that this is the photo that won him 10th place of Twinkasetti framed by lightning on this rooftop. And then Larry kind of warms up and accepts the compliment a little, and he looks at the photograph in the newspaper. He's like, it is pretty good, isn't it?" And Balky goes, "Good? What was the question?"
What are we talking about?
I love that. Good. What was the question?
Larry tells Balky that, "Hey, you know what? To celebrate, I'm going to take you to your favorite place," which we find out Balky's favorite place is the petting zoo.
You mean the petting zoo?
And he gets very excited, and they talk about the zoo, and they get up and go to the closet to get their coats. And when Larry opens the closet, we see a huge, taller than he is, stack of newspapers in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry shuts the door, and Balky's like, "Wait a minute."
Balky goes, "Question.
Am I imagining things, or is that closet full of newspapers?"
Larry's like, "Well, it's not full, just head high."
And Larry goes, "Okay, all right. So I got a few for my family and friends and a lot for my enemies, high school graduation class, time, life." And they leave and roll credits. So, well, I don't know what the lessons were like. They weren't like clearly stated. It was like, just don't give up is the lesson, right?
Don't be your own worst critic, I guess, or believe in yourself. Don't give up.
Pushing, yeah.
But you should give up when it's windy and you're about to die.
Also, don't put yourself and your friends.
Yeah, don't put your friends' lives in danger. Don't blow up the situation and overreact. I don't know. This is a muddy lesson here.
I mean, by the dialogue, I think the lesson was meant to be don't give up and take some risks, I guess, even though it risks their lives. And you can find cool things.
Fun episode, though. Lots of great physical comedy.
Super fun, yeah.
I love learning what the photos were. And like now you think about the whole Roger Morgan thing and the photo that he judged, and like, you know what the photo is. Like, that's kind of cool. It is weird that it's all out of order, but whatever.
It is. And also, not a whole lot of cultural references in this one. We had a couple, but some episodes there's like a lot. Unless there were some here that we missed, but I don't think so.
No, I think largely because it was a Larry kind of centric thing.
A Larry-centric thing, or it came earlier in this. It was recorded earlier or something like that. Maybe they hadn't developed that as much.
But what they still have is Dimitri appearance.
Oh, yes.
In the background. So we could see Dimitri facing outward as he sits on the shelf between the kitchen and the living room in the beginning. And then in the last scene, after they get off the roof, you notice there's an easel in the kitchen, and there's like another lint painting. It's a different lint painting.
Okay.
It's not the same. And you see Dimitri sitting off on the right on the shelf on the ledge looking at the painting, and it kind of looks like he's wearing 3D glasses. And I think because the lint painting has
3D.
depth, it has depth to it, and like there's
Texture.
there's yarn and crap sticking off of it, and so I guess that's what it is. Still, it's cute.
guess.
Yay,
Okay.
Dimitri. Yeah.
Yay, Dimitri. Okay. We had a bunch of fun Balkyisms in this episode. In the beginning, he tells Larry it would be nice if you were launched.
Launch him over my dead battery.
I love that. I'm going to start saying that, over my dead battery.
And then
And every Rolling Stone has a silver lining. That was from a few
another good one.
episodes ago.
I'm still trying to work Baba Stiki into my daily.
Oh, what a load of Bubba
This is
Sticky.
a bunch of Baba Stiki right here.
And then
I explain now you're talking turkey. He calls him
Now
a
you're
turkey
talking,
instead of
turkey.
instead of talking
Cousin,
turkey.
you flipped your coin.
That's a good one. Oh, we missed this line. There was when he's talking about Marianne at the end, right? About the paper.
Yeah.
He's like, just like the time Marianne got her picture in the paper because she got her head stuck in a chain link fence. And Larry goes, it was her hair.
Yeah, I don't know why they had to toss in that extra dig at Marianne.
I don't know.
but
Don't be ridiculous, said a whopping 3 times.
3 times.
I have. Don't be ridiculous.
I like it.
That's a good one. That's a high.
I think 4 is the record so far,
Okay,
I believe.
keep that in mind.
Yeah.
We had some other common catchphrases. We had a couple wows
Yeah.
from Balky. We have one, I don't think so.
I love that.
One, you tricked Balky. One, don't do that. One, what was the question?
What are we talking about?
Oh, and one thing,
Question.
one big
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does. But I love when he goes, observation or question.
question.
Just out of nowhere. That's always really funny. And you get to see Larry drinking out of a unlabeled antacid bottle, running joke from. And this is like, early in the season they showed that a lot, and they haven't really shown that.
Yeah, so I feel like
Another clue.
that's why this one was taped earlier, and then they kind of moved, as the season went on, moved away from that gag.
You know what I've noticed? There's like the gags have a couple of episodes of Lifetime, and then they drop them. Like the whole good point. That's a good point. It was like in 3 episodes in a row.
I mean, it's still season 2. They were probably still like
They're
testing
working
things
things
out,
out.
trying
Absolutely.
them. and I
Absolutely.
thought maybe it got old, but
Yeah, we got a dance of joy, which is fantastic. It's always great to see that. We got Balky laughing at his own joke.
on the roof.
Yeah. While he's in danger, he's still
Yeah.
laughing at his own joke. And then, of course, Twinkie said his growl is always great.
Okay, now we're at the segment of our show that we call Perfect Strangers Today, or PS Today, in which we talk about if this story were to happen today, how would this episode be different? How would things be different? What do you got? You got any thoughts on this?
Well, I would imagine, everybody has a cell phone on them. You get stuck somewhere. You can text for help. You can live stream and say, help, I'm stuck on the
You
roof.
can go on IG Live, Facebook Live.
You can
put
tweet
out all
the
sorts of calls
police.
for help.
I don't know what you do.
But I imagine if this was a sitcom episode today, there would be some situation where, like, the phone
got no
died
bars.
or
Yeah.
fell off the roof.
Either fella who'd be like, I can't get a signal because
I
of
can't
this
get a
building.
signal,
Right.
or my battery's dead, or
The other thing I thought of is for my job, I work a lot with our photographer, and he's got Canon DSLRs and crazy, amazing lenses. He has the most amazing stuff, and I always geek out about his gear. So there's all sorts of rigs and trigger releases and things you could put on a pole. You could get a drone.
drone.
He
Yeah,
could've
this
flown
whole
a
thing
drone
could have
and
been
got that
done with
shot.
a drone
Yep.
today.
Drone photography and real estate and everywhere is huge. He could have got this with a drone.
The whole story in the sitcom, like the conflict would have been like the drone got stuck in the chimney, and they had to get on the roof anyway to free the drone. or the drone got like a bird pooped on it.
The government shows up and they're like, this is a no-fly zone. They think they're like terrorists or something.
All sorts of fun storylines could happen with.
You know what's funny? The other day we were in the backyard and my wife, both of us, we've noticed there's like a drone flying around our house. I don't know what kids are doing this. I want to throw something at it.
I've heard stories of people getting their drone like stuck on the roof or in someone else's yard or whatever and they lost it.
Yeah.
Also, I imagine photo contests would have different rules or different stipulations. Like you could get that shot that he wanted easily.
I could make
Photoshop.
that. I could make it in Photoshop.
There's deep fakes.
Yeah.
They look very, very real. The technology today is
what I was thinking? A reverse kind of PS Today thought is how much... Now there's photo contests and still there's newspapers, but they're going to publish it online, right? On their website, you have great photo articles that are large photos. But having this printed that can't be faked in your hand, this tangible piece that's repeated. You've had stories published in a paper.
Yeah.
Isn't that an amazing thing to see it in your hand?
Existed in the physical printed newspaper. I used to write for newspapers, printed. And I was very young. This was like pre-internet, just pre-internet.
How exciting was it when you saw your byline? It was
very exciting when it came out to see your name in print. I don't know. They still exist in our mother's house in my storage stuff. Yep. I would clip them out from the newspaper, put them in sheet protectors, and keep them in a binder. I had binders of my newspaper clippings.
There's still that something of having tangible and having it printed in a thing that people buy and you see it everywhere.
Now you take photographers take photos and you're sharing the link all over the place. You're posting it all over social medias.
This is how bad it's gotten now for photographers. And I mean, this has already been maybe like 10 years since this happened. But there was 1 year, the Sun-Times and the Tribune and a bunch of newspapers, they literally fired all their photographers.
Oh, yeah.
They told their writers, just use your cell phone. Get a picture. It's horrible. We don't need... And so now you have these mediocre, crappy shots and videos.
Not only photographers. Photographers are one category who took... Like, newspapers fired half their staffs. Editors, that's why things are bad. That's why we have typos and bad headlines. They fired a lot of copy editors.
Yeah, they cut back a lot because... do you think printed papers will ever go away completely?
Yeah.
They're kind of on their way out?
They will. They have been on their way out.
There's environmental issues, all sorts of things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from that world, so it's sad, but I think they will. Also, one other thought I had as we were talking tonight is, we don't have TV antennas anymore.
Yeah, we mentioned that. There'll be nothing to grab onto.
On the roof to grab onto.
Nothing to grab onto.
Do we have lightning rods still? Maybe.
Well, you need the lightning rod, otherwise the lightning's going to hit your house. But the landscape of the American urban city, if you looked at the roofs, was just from the 50s to the 80s.
Yeah, now we have
TV
like
antennas.
Gardens and pools on
everywhere.
On the
TV antennas. That was part of the landscape. We don't need those anymore. Don't eat the antenna.
Yeah. So those are just some thoughts about Perfect Strangers today. If you have other thoughts, please let us know.
All right, it's time for Balky Duds. The segment is back, everybody.
Yay!
Get out of the city.
Rainey sent us a clip for this episode. I have not listened to this. I wanted to be surprised. She wrote in the email, she said, fun surprise in this one. And I was like, I'm not going to listen. Let's all find out together.
Welcome back, Rainey.
Hi, Imran and Sophia. This is Rainey from Balky Duds, and I am here to share an exciting discovery in Season 2, Episode 20, Up on the Roof.
What?
I was watching this episode and noticing that, for the most part, Balky was just wearing some store-bought looking things. He had that same vest he'd had on in a previous episode that didn't look like a real, unique Balky vest. It was just something with paisley on it. He had a long-sleeve shirt with some little stripes and splotches of color. And then, when they actually get up on the roof and Balky's wearing that red jacket and the sweater, I looked at the pockets on the front of the jacket, and if you look, it has the little tents, or the little houses anyway, from the other vest. Camp Anti-Gravity vest that we saw in earlier episodes sewn onto it. So it looks to me like they took that same fabric, cut out some of the little tents, and sewed them onto the jacket, which is an absolutely ridiculous detail that, once again, as I always say, I absolutely love.
I did not notice
So I'm really glad that I noticed that this time around. After they get down from the roof and they're back in the apartment, he goes back to what seems like another store-bought vest. It's not one of his real exciting ones. So that was kind of the big, exciting Balky Duds detail for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll talk to you next time. As always, our Instagram is instagram.com/balkyduds, DUDS, all one word.
Rainey, all I have to say to that is wow.
Wow. I'm so glad. And get out of the city. I'm so glad that.
Out of the city.
I'm so glad that we have Rainey back on the show, pointing out these details that are just so lovely and just add so much to our discussion.
I love
would
it.
not have noticed that at all.
I mean, look at this another layer. She is picking up things we didn't even notice.
It's so great.
But I do pay more attention to their clothes. Every episode now, I'm like, oh, I wonder what that. But wow, what a great discovery. I'm going to go back and try to watch it and see that thing. I didn't even know. That's fantastic. Anti-gravity vest comes back. Fantastic.
That's our show for today.
Yeah.
Join us next week when Larry and Balky quit their jobs at Ritz Discount.
Oh, my God.
And move on to some other potential exciting prospects.
Well,
Let's see what happens.
They can't work there forever. I mean, it's a discount store at some point.
Where will all of our Act 1s open up?
I don't know. What is the exterior shot?
Ritz Discount.
So, listener, subscribe so you don't miss a show. Visit danceofjoypod.com for all the links to subscribe. And everywhere there's audio, we're there. You can listen to us there. We've made it very easy. If you like the show, please leave us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. They all have little areas for reviews.
And, of course, we'd love to hear from you, too, or receive some notes from you if you're enjoying what you hear. If you have any thoughts, if we missed anything, if you just want to say hi, please get in touch. You can leave us a voicemail. There's a button on the bottom right of our site, or you can send us an old-fashioned electronic mail message at the address danceofjoypod@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on any of our socials. We're Dance of Joy Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I mean, you can also do what Rainey does, is just simply, all your cell phones now have voice memo apps built in. She just records a little voice memo, email it to danceofjoypod@gmail.com.
So many ways.
There's lots of ways. And of course, the last thing, share this show with a friend who loves the 80s, who loves retro classic sitcoms. I feel like there's a resurgence in this era of sitcoms with documentaries and these reboots happening. I think we're at the precipice. We're at the beginning of like a fad with Perfect Strangers and 80s retro things. I would love the 80s. I want to go back.
Let's go back.
Thank you for listening. And now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy. Hey, 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 hey.